They called him a monster, but no one knew what he was building in the shadows. The desert didn't fear him. It recognized him, because only something just as ruthless could survive in a land where mercy died before sunrise. They called him the Black Rider, a name whispered in fear across towns, saloons, and dusty roads where men vanished without a trace. Caravans avoided his path, sheriffs cursed his existence, and bounty hunters, most never came back. One night, a convoy burned under the cold light of the moon, gold scattered into the sand. Men lay defeated, groaning, crawling, begging, but the Black Rider didn't stay. He never did. He took what he came for and vanished into the dark. But this time, something was different. As he rode away, the wind carried a sound. Soft, broken, not fear, not anger, something else. Crying. He stopped. That alone, it was unusual. The Black Rider didn't stop for anything. Slowly, he turned his horse. The sound came again, closer this time. Behind the wreckage of the burned convoy sat a child, no more than 5. Dust-covered, trembling, alone. His eyes narrowed. Not with anger, not with pity, with something far more dangerous. Memory, go home, he said coldly. The child didn't move. I don't have one. The words hit harder than any bullet ever could. For a moment, the desert went silent. Even the wind stopped breathing. The Black Rider looked away. He had seen this before. Too many times, too many faces, too many ghosts. He reached into his coat, not for a weapon, but for something wrapped in cloth. He dropped it beside the child. Food, water, coins, more than enough to survive, more than most would ever give. Then he turned, mounted his horse, and rode away. But he didn't get far because something followed him, not footsteps, not danger, but silence. The kind that clings, the kind that questions. He stopped again, closed his eyes, exhaled, slow, heavy, like a man fighting a war no one could see. Then, he turned back. The child hadn't moved, still sitting, still waiting, not crying anymore, just watching. Why are you still here? He asked. The child looked up, eyes tired beyond their years. Because you didn't leave like the others. That was it. That one sentence. Something inside the Black Rider shifted. Not broken, not healed, but opened. Get up, he said. The child hesitated. Why? A long pause. Then, in a voice that carried more truth than threat, he said, because I don't leave things unfinished. The child stood, slowly, uncertain. The Black Rider extended his hand. Rough, scarred, feared by many. The child took it, and just like that, the most feared outlaw in the desert did something no one would ever believe. He took the child with him, not to a town, not to safety, but to a place hidden beyond maps, beyond law, beyond understanding, a place no one knew existed, where dozens of children already lived, fed, protected, taught, a secret, buried beneath the legend of a monster. The world was hunting a criminal, but they had no idea he was building an army of minds. She was sent to hunt him, but the closer she got, the more she realized she was chasing the wrong enemy. The desert had a new shadow now, Not one, two. Captain Elena Reyes, a name feared almost as much as the Black Rider himself. She wasn't like the others. She didn't chase rumors. She chased truth. And tonight, that truth led her straight into the heart of darkness. Gunfire echoed through the canyon. Steel clashed against steel. The Black Rider moved like a ghost among men. Fast, precise, unstoppable. 3 attackers rushed him. One fell before reaching him. Second tried to strike from the side. Blocked, disarmed, gone. The third didn't even see what hit him. From the shadows, Elena watched, eyes sharp, gun steady, heart confused. "This is the monster?" she whispered. No rage, no cruelty, just control. The rider grabbed a bag from the fallen convoy, gold, food, medicine, and disappeared into the night. Elena followed, miles, through dust, through silence, through something she couldn't explain. Until she saw it, a hidden camp. Not criminals, not thieves, children, dozens of them. Laughing, studying, living. Her breath caught. Inside, the Black Rider stood before them, not as a criminal, but as a teacher. "Discipline is not for war," he said calmly. "It's for survival." Elena stepped back into the shadows, confusion turning into something deeper, dangerous. Days passed. She kept watching, learning. She saw him fight. Again, bandits attacked the camp this time, and what she witnessed changed everything. He didn't fight like a killer. He fought like a shield. Every move calculated, every strike controlled. No unnecessary blood, only protection. And when it was over, he didn't celebrate. He checked the children first. That was the moment. Something inside Elena broke. He's not the enemy. But the law didn't care. One night, she stepped into the light, gun aimed, heart racing. "It's over," she said. The Black Rider didn't move, didn't reach for a weapon, didn't run. "You've been watching for days," he said calmly. Her finger tightened on the trigger. "Drop your weapon." A long silence. Then he spoke, quietly. "He's still alive." She froze. "What?" "The boy from the convoy," he said. "He's inside, eating." Her eyes widened. No criminal and would do that. "Why?" she asked. The rider looked at her, not as an enemy, but as someone who deserved the truth. Because someone has to. That answer was enough. Her gun lowered. Slowly. Days turned into weeks, weeks into something else. She stayed, not as a soldier, not as a hunter, but as a witness. She saw him teach, protect, care, and somewhere between duty and truth, she lost something. Control. "You're risking everything," she told him one night. He looked at the stars. "I already lost everything." Silence. Then she asked the question she had been hiding. "Why do you keep going?" He didn't answer immediately. Then, softly, "Because they didn't get a choice." That was it. That moment was where law ended and love began. Elena lowered her badge, not physically, but in her heart. "I won't turn you in," she said. A pause. "But I won't let you fall either." For the first time, the Black Rider looked at someone and didn't look away. She chose him over the law, but the world doesn't forgive traitors, and the hunt had just begun. She chose him over the law, but the law doesn't forget, and it never forgives. The desert felt quieter these days. Not because danger had disappeared, but because something unexpected had taken its place. Peace. Elena stood at the edge of the camp, watching children laugh as they ran between makeshift classrooms. It still didn't feel real. A place like this, hidden from the world, yet more alive than any city she had ever known. "You're still thinking like a soldier." His voice came from behind her, calm, measured, familiar. She didn't turn. "And you're still hiding like a criminal." A pause, then a faint smirk. "I stopped running," the Black Rider said. "You're the one who followed." Now she turned, eyes meeting his, not as hunter and target, but as something far more complicated. "Why didn't you leave?" she asked quietly. "You had the chance." He looked toward the children. "They don't." That answer, again, was enough. Days turned into something softer, less guarded. Elena began teaching alongside him, reading, writing, even basic defense, and for the first time in years, she wasn't enforcing the law. She was building something. One evening, as the sun melted into the horizon, they sat side by side in silence. "You're changing," she said. He didn't respond. "You don't fight like before," she continued. "There's hesitation." He finally looked at her. "That's not hesitation." A pause. "That's something to lose." The wind slowed. The world held its breath. "Is that what I am?" she asked softly. He didn't answer, but he didn't look away either. And sometimes, silence says everything. Betrayal begins miles away. In a fortified government outpost, Kanem, a map was slammed onto a table. "We've confirmed his location." The room went still. General Vargos stepped forward, cold, calculated, ruthless. "And Captain Elena?" someone asked. A pause. Then, "She's compromised." That one word sealed her fate. "Prepare the strike unit," Vargos ordered. "No survivors." Back at the camp, Elena felt it before she saw it. Something was wrong. The wind carried tension, not peace. "They found us," she said suddenly. The rider didn't ask how. He already knew. "How long?" he asked. "Not long enough." The children, they didn't know. Still laughing, still living. He looked at them, then at her. "You should go," he said. Her eyes hardened. "I'm not leaving. This isn't your fight." "It became mine the moment I stayed." Silence. Then, he nodded. The attack came at dawn. Explosions tore through the outer camp. Smoke filled the sky. Screams followed. The rider moved instantly, sword drawn, eyes locked. This wasn't survival anymore. This was war. Soldiers advanced in formation, disciplined, relentless. But they didn't know the terrain. They didn't know him. He struck fast, silent, deadly. Elena fought beside him, gunfire cutting through chaos. But this time, she wasn't aiming at criminals. She was aiming at her own side. The breaking point, amid the chaos, a voice echoed, "Captain Elena." She froze. General Vargos stepped forward through the smoke. "You've chosen a criminal over your country." Her grip tightened. "He's not the enemy." Vargos smirked. "That's not for you to decide." Behind him, more soldiers arrived, more weapons, more firepower. This wasn't a mission anymore. This was extermination. She betrayed the system to save him. Now the system is coming to destroy them both. And this war will decide everything. They came to erase a criminal, but what they found when was a man worth dying for. Dawn didn't break that morning. It shattered. The sky burned orange as explosions tore through the edges of the hidden camp. Wood splintered. Dust rose like ghosts. Children screamed. And the world the Black Rider had built began to fall apart. "Move!" Elena shouted, pulling two children behind a collapsed wall. Gunfire echoed through the canyon. Relentless, precise, military. This wasn't a raid. This was extermination. The Black Rider stepped into the open, sword in hand, eyes locked, breathing steady. He didn't look like a criminal anymore. He looked like a wall. The first wave of soldiers rushed in. They never reached the center. Steel flashed, dust exploded, bodies dropped. Not brutally, but decisively. Every movement was controlled, purposeful. He wasn't fighting for survival. He was fighting for time. "Elena," he called. She turned. "Get them out." Her eyes widened. "No, we can still... now." That wasn't an order. It was a choice, and she understood. Elena led the children through a narrow canyon path. Smoke followed them. So did fear. Behind them, the sounds of war grew louder. The rider stood alone. Again. But this time, it wasn't just men he faced. It was the past, the system, the world that created him. More soldiers arrived, heavier weapons, tighter formation. He charged, not recklessly, but with intent. One soldier lunged, blocked, disarmed, gone. Another fired. He moved before the trigger finished pulling. Precision, speed, silence between strikes. But even legends bleed. A bullet grazed his shoulder. Another tore through his side. He didn't stop, because stopping meant losing everything again. Elena's choice at the edge of the canyon. Elena stopped. The children were safe, for now, but something inside her was breaking. She turned back. One child grabbed her arm. "Don't go." Her voice trembled. "I already lost him once." She pulled free and ran back into the fire. The final stand. The camp was almost gone. Flames swallowed what remained. The rider dropped to one knee, breathing heavier now, slower. General Vargos stepped forward through the smoke. Untouched. Cold. "It ends here," he said. The rider looked up. Not afraid. Not angry. Just tired. "You could have walked away," Vargos continued. "Instead, you chose this." A pause. Then the rider spoke. They didn't get a choice. That same line, one last time. Vargos signaled. Soldiers raised their weapons, and then a gunshot echoed, but not from them. Elena, standing behind, gun raised, eyes shaking. "No more," she said. The world froze. "You've betrayed your country," Vargos said quietly. She didn't lower the weapon. "I chose the truth." Silence. Then chaos returned. Together in war, Elena ran to him. "You always do this alone?" she said, breathless, a faint smirk. "Not anymore." They stood together, back to back, sword, gun, love, war. Everything collided in that moment. They fought, not like soldiers, but like something stronger for a moment, and it felt like they could win. The sacrifice then, everything changed. A hidden sniper, a single shot. Elena froze. The bullet meant for her never reached, because he moved first. The rider stepped in front. Impact, silence. His body tensed, then softened. Elena, her world shattered. No, stay with me," She caught him before he fell. His blood stained the same sand where he built hope. "I told you," he whispered weakly. Her tears fell onto his face. "I don't leave people behind." His hand moved slightly, touching hers. "You won't have to anymore." And then, the war stopped. He gave everything to protect them. Now all that remains is what they choose to do with his sacrifice. They came to erase his name, but instead, they carved it into history. The war didn't end with victory. It ended with silence. Smoke drifted across the broken camp. Ash covered the ground where hope once stood. And in the middle of it all, he lay still, the Black Rider. Elena dropped to her knees beside him, her hands trembling, her breath shattered. "No, no, stay with me," she whispered. His eyes flickered open, faint, heavy, but aware. "You're safe," he said softly. Her tears fell faster. "That wasn't your job. That wasn't your duty." A weak smile touched his lips. "It was my choice." Silence wrapped around them, the kind that only comes when something irreplaceable is about to disappear. Final words. The children slowly gathered, one by one, afraid, confused. "Is he leaving?" a small voice asked. Elena couldn't answer. The rider looked at them, not as a leader, not as a protector, as something deeper. "Family. You don't need me anymore," he said, barely audible. That broke them. "No," one child cried. "You promised." His breathing slowed. "I promised you wouldn't be alone." A pause. "And you're not." His hand moved, weakly, toward Elena. "She'll make sure of that." Elena shook her head, crying harder. "I can't do this without you." He looked at her. "One last time." "You already did." The wind passed gently across the desert. And then, for the first time, the Black Rider closed his eyes, without opening them again. Days later, the desert felt different. Not empty, not broken, changed. The camp was gone, but something stronger had taken its place. A village, built not in hiding, but in truth. Elena stood where the camp once burned, now surrounded by children learning, laughing, living. She didn't wear her badge anymore, but she didn't run from it either, because now, she wasn't serving the law. She was serving something greater. The truth revealed. Back in the capital, reports surfaced, not of crimes, but of impact. Orphan records, education logs, medical aid routes, everything he built was uncovered. The government had a choice: call him what he was, or admit what he became. The decision. A public gathering was called. Crowds filled the square. Officials stood in silence. And for the first time, his name wasn't whispered in fear. It was spoken with respect. The man known as the Black Rider, a pause, is hereby recognized for his service to the people. Murmurs spread, shock, emotion, truth. A medal of honor for protecting the forgotten, the statue. At the center of the village, a statue was raised, not of a criminal, but of a man standing tall, sword lowered, hand slightly raised, not in power, but in promise. Children gathered around it daily. Some laughed, some prayed, some simply looked up, with hope in their eyes. Final emotional scene. Elena stood at the base of the statue, alone, Her hand rested gently against it. "You said I could do this," she whispered. A tear fell. "I'm trying." Behind her, the children played, the school stood, the village lived. Everything he fought for was still breathing, and maybe that was enough. A man is not defined by his past, but by what he chooses to become. Sometimes the world calls you a criminal, when you are actually saving what it forgot. True heroes are not those who follow the law, but those who stand for humanity. Legends don't die, they live in what they leave behind.